Good morning, sir. My name is Tiong Xiu Tian. My memory number is 289428. We are from Group 5. So today we will present about the topic 5 is Neoclassical School. For this assignment, we will discuss the origin of Neoclassical School and state 3 extensions of economy analyzed by that school as compared to early classical and marginalist school. After that, we also will explain how after Marshall, the Neoclassical School combined the idea of Adam Smith's Classical School and William Stanley Jevons Marginalist School to further expand the theory of value, that is market price of goods and services. The origin of Neoclassical School is the microeconomic truth of the marginalists was transformed into Neoclassical economics. Neo means new. Neoclassicism implies new form of classicism. The Neoclassical economics were marginalist in the crucial sense that they emphasize decision-making and price determination at the margin. After that, the Neoclassical school is quite unique compared to other schools of economy discussed early. This is because they did not have 5 major questions. After that, they draw on the idea of their predecessor, that is classical and marginalist, and develop the future. The greatest figure in the Neoclassical school is Alfred Marshall. The 3 extensions of economy analyzed by the Neoclassical school as compared to classical and marginalist school, that is value theory, monetary economy, and imperfect competition market. The first one, value theory, is Neoclassical stress both demand and supply in determines the market price of goods, services, and resources. For the classical, they stress on the supply to determine the market price. Then for the marginalist school, that is use the demand to determine the market price. After that, for the monetary economy, there is several of the Neoclassical economics. For example, Wixell and Fisher took a far greater interest in the role of money in the economy than did the early classical and marginalists. The last one is imperfect competition markets. Neoclassical economy extend marginal analysis to market structure other than pure competition, pure monopoly, and duopoly. Focus on this assignment, we separate into 2 parts. The first part is discussing the biography of contribution of Alfred Marshall in developing the idea of Neoclassical school. The second part is comparing the view of Adam Smith Classical School, William Stanley Jevons Marginalist School, and Alfred Marshall Neoclassical School on the theory of value. We also would like to know how these economics respond to the following question, that is, do peers have value because people died for them, or do people die for peers because peers have values? Biography of Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall was born on 26 July 1842 at Bermondsey, London, England, and died on 13 July 1924. He was the greatest figure in the Neoclassical school. Marshall was the son of a cashier in the Bank of England. His father overworked him at studies, made him promise never play chess because it was wasting time, and tried to banish math from the boy's life because it is irrelevant to the ministry. Young Marshall rejected a scholarship at Oxford, instead attended to Cambridge, where he devoted himself to math, physics, and economics. He was aided by a well-to-do uncle because his father simply being too poor to pay for his tuition fee when he gave out a scholarship. He threw much of what he wrote into the wastebasket, and in fact many of his major ideas were worked out a decade or more before they appeared in Principles of Economics 1890. Marshall criticized Jevon, the marginalist school, for rushing into print before.
Greetings to all. I'm Jetta Walangri, match number 289472. I will indeed start the presentation about Alfred Marshall's contributions. So, Marshall was a great synthesizer, combined the best of classical economics with marginalist thinking. So, classical plus marginalist equals to neoclassical. He popularized the modern diagrammatic approach to economics. He was an expert mathematician. However, he only placed math in footnotes and appendixes. Marshall defined economics as a study of mankind in the ordinary business life. It examined that part of individual and social action which is most closely connected with the attainment and which the use of the material requisites of well-being. So, according to Marshall, economics, like other scientists, both collect, arrange, interpret, and draw inferences from facts, seek knowledge of the interdependence of economic phenomena, of cause and effect relationships. Economics is not a body of concrete truth, but rather an engine for the discovery of concrete truth. Economic laws are social laws that relate to human conduct in which the strength of the major motives can be measured by financial price. Marshall and others who developed microeconomic approach say little about business cycle. It was left to later aggregate economics, macroeconomics to grapple with such problem. In 50 years of writing, Marshall produced 82 publications. Those below are examples of it. The founder of the classical school, Adam Smith, will then be the topic of our discussion. Let's now explore Adam Smith from the classical school's value of theory. The diamond water paradox is one of the Adam Smith's most well-known theories. Why is water so cheap and diamonds are so expensive? This is a question on Adam Smith's mind. The answer for this question is because it involves two kinds of value, which are value in use and value in exchange. In simple terms, what do these two values mean? Value in use, VIU, explains about the utility of some particular object. This object have the greatest VIU but have frequently little or no VIE. For example, water has greatest VIU but little VIE. On the other hand, value of exchange explains about the power of purchasing other goods which is possession of that object conveys. This object has frequently little or no VIU but have greatest VIE. For example, diamonds have little VIU but greater VIE. Water have high VIU but little VIE, even though water is essential to life. Furthermore, diamonds have little VIU but high VIE, even though diamonds are not essential to life. Anyhow, Adam Smith failed to solve this diamond water paradox because he did not understand the concept of total utility and marginal utility and law of diminishing marginal utility. Therefore, Adam Smith directed his analysis only in value in exchange. He discussed his theory of value in primitive society and advanced economy. Thus, we will have a look at the labor theory of value, primitive society. So, Smith argued that in primitive society, labor was the only resource. The relative value of a good would be determined by the amount of labor necessary to produce it. Value of any commodity to a person who possesses it, if he wishes to exchange it for other commodities, is equal to the quantity of labor which it enables him to purchase a command. In this primitive society, it is evaluated as labor cost equals to labor command. Hence, in this case, we do have a famous Smith-deer-beaver example. So, suppose that it took 2 hours to trap a beaver and 1 hour to hunt and shoot a deer. So, the question is, what is the value in exchange of the beaver? The answer will be 2 deer or 2 hours of labor. That is, a person could either exchange the beaver for 2 deer because each deer requires only 1 hour of labor to harvest, or could use the beaver to command 2 hours of labor services. In a primitive economy, according to Smith, labor is both the source, labor cost theory, and the measure, labor commanded theory of exchange value. Hence, we will now move on to the labor theory of value, advanced economy. Smith realized that the growth of capital would invalidate a simple labor cost theory of value. Normally, goods will be exchanged with other goods or money of labor at a figure high enough to cover wages, rent, and profit. Besides that, the profit will depend on the whole value of the capital advanced by employer. The real value of commodities can no longer be measured by the labor contained in them, but they still can be measured by the quantity of labor which they can, each of them purchase a command. The quantity of labor that a commodity can buy, labor command, exceeds the quantity of labor embodied in its production, labor cost, by the total profits and rents. In this case, can be said that the labor cost is less than the labor command. As the overview, Adam Smith emphasized supply cost of production as the significant determinant of exchange value price. So, the question is, do pearls have value because people need to die for them, or do people die for pearls because pearls have value? So, according to Adam Smith, pearls have value because people need to die for them. Cost of production determine a goods exchange value price. Thank you.
Greetings to all. My name is Tan Wee Ching. Number metric is 290020. Next, I will continue the presentation with explaining the ideas from Marginalist School brought by William Stanley Jevons. Let me talk about some biography of William Stanley Jevons. Jevons is one of the most important economists in the Marginalist School. He was born in Liverpool at the year of 1835. He is one of the main contributors to the Marginal Revolution, which revolutionized economic theory and shifted classical to neoclassical economics. He was the first economist to construct index numbers, and he had a tremendous influence on the development of empirical methods and the use of statistics and econometrics in the social science. The main book by Jevons is The Theory of Political Economy, expounded the final marginal utility theory of value. The contribution that made by Jevons is he has solved the diamond water paradox that failed to solve by Adam Smith on value theory. So, for the next slide, we are going to look his opinion on value theory
and how he solved the diamond water paradox issues.
For this slide, we are going to discuss about Jevons in his value theory solve the diamond water paradox by explaining these three concepts as below. First concept is total utility TU, second concept is marginal utility MU, and the third concept is law of diminishing utility. So, what is the total utility? Total utility is total satisfaction a person receives from consuming a particular quantity of a good. For example, if a consumer is presented with two purchasing options with the same financial cost and neither option is more necessary or functional than the other, the consumer will choose the good or service that provides the most utility for the money. The second is marginal utility. Marginal utility is additional utility a person receives from consuming an additional unit of a particular good. The third one is law of diminishing marginal utility. Law of diminishing marginal utility means marginal utility by consuming equal successive units of a good will decline as the amount consumed increase. So, we will see more details on law of diminishing marginal utility with the next slide. I am going to give an example based on the graph for better understanding. The top graph measures total utility on the vertical axis and units consumed per meal on horizontal axis. As we can see, total utility rise from 10, 18, 24 as more of meal consumed. However, as more of meal is consumed more than 5 units, total utility increase at a diminishing rate that is increased from 10 to 30 units and continue decrease from 30 units to 28 units. Marginal utility in the lower graph will decline from 10, 8 until negative 2 due to satisfaction become less. The next slide is diamond water paradox that's solved by Jevons. Jevons says that total utility of water is high because water is extremely useful. Water is essential in our life to survive. We need water to drink or use in every day. Without water, people will die. Total utility of diamonds is low because diamonds are not as useful as water. Diamonds is an essential to human life because we don't need to use diamonds in every day. It is a luxury goods. So the question is, if total utility of water is higher than total utility of diamond, why is not the price of water is higher than price of diamonds? First, its price does not reflect total utility but marginal utility. Marginal utility of water is lower than marginal utility of diamonds. Marginal utility of water is low because water is so plentiful. It can be explained by in terms of demand and supply. The supply of water is more because it can easy to obtain in most places. While marginal utility of diamonds is high because diamonds are scarce. Diamonds are not easily to obtain so that the price of demand will relatively high. As a result, the additional unit of water gives us less utility than the additional unit of diamonds. People could rather have an additional diamond than an additional unit of water given large stock of water. For the summary of Jevons marginalist school emphasized demand utility as the significant determinant of price. According to Jevons, cost of production determines supply, supply determines final degree of utility, final degree of utility determines value. Jevons' opinions on the value of pearl is, do pearls have value because people need to die for them, or do people die for pearls because pearls have value? According to Jevons, he said that people die for pearls because pearls have value and buyers get utility from them. Now, I will continue present about the ideas from Neoclassical school by Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall was one of the most influential economists of all time. His book, principles of economics became a dominant economic and was the first to introduce many now standard principles of field. Alfred Marshall combined the best of classical economics and marginalist thinking. He stressed on both demand and supply in determining the market price of goods, services, and resources. The implication of Marshall's approach and definition are interesting, which is the relationship among supply, demand, and price tend to produce certain results if they are allowed to work themselves, but society can influence the outcome if it so desires. According to Marshall, demand is based on the law of diminishing marginal utility. He introduced two important qualifications at this point. First, he was concerned with a moment in time, which is too short to consider any changes in character and taste of a particular person. Second, the law of diminishing concerns consumers goods that are indivisible. A small quantity of a commodity may be insufficient to meet a certain special wants, and then there will be a more than proportionate increase of pleasure when the consumer gets enough of it to enable him to attain the desired end. The next slide is how can we measure utility of such intangible? Marshall boldly said with money. The early marginalist says that the strength of a person's preference determines the amount of money they're willing to spend to acquire same product. However, Marshall turned the relationship around so as to measure preference according to financial skills of payment. That's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Now, we will move to rational consumer choice and law of demand according to Alfred Marshall in Neoclassical school. In rational consumer choice, Marshall said that each line of expenditure will be pushed to the point at which marginal utility of dollars worth of goods will be the same as in other direction of spending. The equation of this theory is MUX divided by PX equal to MUY divided by PY. While for law of demand, according to Marshall, he said a clear conception of differences between changes in quantity demanded measured along the horizontal axis and changes in demand, which shift of the entire curve. Okay, and then when P of X falls, there will be two effects, which is substitution effect and income effects. Next, we will see about consumer surplus. Consumer surplus is the differences between the total expenditure consumers are willing to pay and what they are actual pay, while total utility of a good is the sum of the successive marginal utilities of each added unit. While the price a person pay for a good not exceeds and seldom equal which consumers willing to pay rather than go without desired object. Next, we see elasticity of demand. When the price goes up, the quantity demands goes down. And the formula to the demand is change in quantity demand divided by change in price. Price elasticity of demand. When the price is bigger than 1, it's mean elasticity of demand. While price is inelasticity, the elasticity of demand is small than 1. And elasticity of demand will be equal to 1 if it unit elasticity. Furthermore, it will be perfectly elastic if elasticity of demand is infinity. And last but not least, the elasticity of demand will be equal to 0 when it perfectly inelasticity. Next, we will see what Marshall said about supply. Marshall said supply is determined by cost of production. Moreover, Marshall divided time into 3 periods, which is immediate period, long run and short run. Immediate present, which is quantity supply, cannot be increased in response to a suddenly increase in demand and cannot decrease immediately in response to a deadline in demand because it takes time to be reduced. Meanwhile, short run defined as that period during which is the variable input can be increased or decreased by fixed cost cannot be changed. Short run also divided cost into two types, which is supplementary cost and prime cost. Last, long run are variable and they must all be covered if the firm is to continue in business. And the increases in prices can cause TR exit to TC of production, which is profit. Okay, we move to period of production, inputs and costs. Inputs of short run are fixed input and variable inputs, while long run input use all variable and factors. Now we will see Marshall determination of equilibrium. Marshall's partial equilibrium analysis seeks to explain the price determination of a single commodity through the intersection of demand and supply curves with price of other goods and resources price. Last but not least, graph representation. The figure graphically shows Marshall's equilibrium price and quantity. Point is equilibrium price and quantity, which is over to demand over to supply. Marshalls also represent the idea of consumer surplus and producer surplus, which shown in the figure, which is labeled as a pink color is consumer surplus and purple color is producer surplus.